Live from WTVO Rockford and your home team. Eyewitness News at 5 starts now.
The U.S. says the leader of ISIS was killed during a raid in Syria. The terrorist wasn't the only one to perish. Lawmakers say this isn't the end of ISIS.
A State Line area woman has been missing for 100 days. Her family is desperate for answers and hope.
Plus, Rockford Public Schools want to reward students who are vaccinated against COVID. We'll tell you where and when parents can pick up a free gift. Good evening, I'm Mimi Murphy.
And I'm Eric Wilson. The leader of ISIS is dead after a U.S. Special Operations raid.
President Biden announced the news today, hailing it as a victory against the terrorist group. D.C.'s Hannah Brandt is in Washington with details about the operation, as Eyewitness News keeps you connected to the nation's capital.
This operation was months in the making, according to the White House, and President Biden spent hours in the Situation Room as he watched special forces carry out the raid against the ISIS leader.
Thanks to the bravery of our troops, this horrible terrorist leader is no more.
Overnight, ISIS leader Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi was killed during a U.S. military raid in Syria. President Biden says al-Qurashi used explosives to kill himself and several of his family members during the attack.
In a final act of desperate cowardness, he, with no regard to the lives of his own family or others in the building, he chose to blow himself up.
First responders say 13 people were killed in the raid, including women and children. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby says U.S. forces were able to safely evacuate 10 other people.
We're always mindful of the potential for civilian harm or harm to innocent life.
American military officials say the leader was responsible for ISIS actions in recent years and the genocide of the Yazidi people in Iraq. Lawmakers, including Republican Senators Roger Marshall and Mitt Romney, are praising President Biden.
So I stand behind the president on taking out this ISIS leader.
That's very good news. Obviously, ISIS is a great threat to our interests, not only in the Middle East, but around the world.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi celebrated the raid, but warned there's more to do.
The death of this ISIS leader does not mean the death of ISIS.
And President Biden promised to keep pressure on ISIS and terrorists around the world.
We will come after you and find you.
President Biden says he specifically chose to do a special forces raid to minimize civilian deaths rather than an airstrike, which would have been less risky for American forces but could have killed more people. In Washington, I'm Hannah Brandt.
Another law enforcement officer is attacked in the line of duty. A Tennessee sheriff's deputy was shot during an attempted traffic stop early this morning. It happened in Williamson County. That's about 20 miles south of Nashville. Investigators say the deputy tried pulling a car over, but the driver refused to stop and fired off several shots. The deputy was hit at least once. The driver ended up crashing and getting hurt. Both the deputy and driver are being treated and are expected to survive. Murder charges are expected to be filed today against a gunman in a fatal school shooting. It happened Tuesday at a school outside Minneapolis. Police say a dispute between 5 students was rekindled just after noon outside the South Education Center High School in Richfield. During the fight, an 18 and 19-year-old both reportedly opened fire. 15-year-old Jamari Rice was killed. A 17-year-old was hurt.
The family of a missing Greene County woman is losing hope. Melissa Trumpy was reported missing at the end of October.
The mother of 3 was last seen leaving Wisconsin, driving towards Shannon, Illinois. Her truck was found the next day near Freeport. Rachel Perry sat down with Trumpy's sister again today as she looks back at the last few months. Rachel, she tells you Melissa's kids deserve answers.
Yeah, that's right, Mimi and Eric. She says as more days go by, the harder it gets. Mandy tells me she has a feeling Melissa was murdered and just wants to put her sister to rest.
Yesterday was like the 100-day anniversary of her disappearance. So 101 today.
101 days, 3 months, and still no answers as to what happened to Melissa Trumpy. Mandy and Bosch tells me she just wants to bring her sister home.
I want to be able to put her to rest. I want all of us to have closure. It's not fair to those kids. It's not fair to us. It's not fair to my mom as a mother to have to just not know.
Investigators say Melissa was last seen here in Monticello, Wisconsin. Her sister Mandy says she was headed roughly 50 miles away to her boyfriend's house in Shannon, Illinois. Her car was found abandoned on Bolton Road near Freeport. Mandy says she isn't sure why the car was there, but she has her ideas.
I think he just randomly put it there to just throw us off. It was just a ruse. He just parked it there. There was nothing wrong with it. and her belongings were in it. So, I mean, it was just planted there.
The person Mandy is referring to is Melissa's boyfriend, Derek Hammer. Mandy believes Derek knows what happened to Melissa.
The one person who knows everything, yeah. He's not talking, he's lawyered up.
Hammer is in custody in Stevenson County on a drug charge. He's also charged in a September domestic abuse case against Trumpy in Greene County, Wisconsin. Now Mandy tells me Melissa's 3 kids need closure.
All I hear is, Aunt Mandy, I miss Mommy. I want Mommy to come home. And, you know, Josie said she wanted to throw Mommy a big party when she came home. How do you sit there and listen to that, you know, and their hopes and, like, you know?
At this point, investigators still have not named a person of interest. I have left Carroll County Sheriff Ryan Clipping several voicemails and emails asking for an update, but have not heard back. Mimi?
All right, thanks, Rachel. Rockford Public Schools are incentivizing kids to get vaccinated against COVID. Now, if students roll up their sleeves, they will get a $50 gift card. Kids who show proof of vaccination or booster shots qualify. Parents can pick up gift cards Wednesday evening at the RPS Welcome Center from 3:30 to 6. The district is hosting a number of vaccine clinics for kids who still want the shot. The next one is scheduled for next Thursday from 2 to 6 at Cherry Valley Elementary School. Parents are pretty evenly divided when it comes to vaccinating their toddlers against COVID. The Kaiser Family Foundation conducted a survey which shows 31% of parents with kids between 6 months and 4 years old will get their children vaccinated as soon as it becomes available. 26% definitely won't, and almost 30% will take a wait-and-see approach. Pfizer asked the FDA for emergency use authorization for this age group. It's offering a 2-dose regimen and looking into a 3rd shot. If approved, young kids could get vaccinated early next month.
A Rockford drugstore will close before the end of the month. CVS on South Alpine near Harrison Avenue will shut its doors February 26th. If you have a prescription there, employees say you can call to switch locations. If you don't take action before closing day, the prescription will automatically move to the CVS at the corner of State and Alpine. This is the second CVS to close in the Forest City recently. The North Main and Riverside store shut down in November. Experts say the latest readings on the job market are encouraging. There were 238,000 new claims for unemployment benefits last week, down 23,000 from the week before. Continuing claims, those still receiving benefits, declined to 1.62 million, in line with predictions. Most economists are expecting employment to rebound this month. And though businesses have been dealing with labor shortages, they were able to get more done at the end of last year. Worker productivity, how much is accomplished by employees, rose 6.6% in the 4th quarter, more than twice the forecast.
Chicago prepares for protests as former police officer Jason Van Dyke is released from prison.
After the break, a legal expert explains how the former cop got his freedom back.
And Illinois State Police face added obstacles as snow piles along highways. Harsh conditions result in a number of trooper squad cars getting hit. We'll have those details tonight at 6.
Temperatures for us this afternoon remained well below average, but we'll soon see those 30s return. Find out how long they stick around, all coming up in your most trusted forecast a little later.
You're watching Eyewitness News, your home team with Eric Wilson, Mimi Murphy, Scott Leber, and Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
Former Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke is no longer in Illinois Department of Corrections custody, according to the agency.
Van Dyke was released after serving less than half of his nearly 7-year sentence for shooting and killing Laquan McDonald in 2014. Julian Cruz breaks down how the case got to this point.
Under Illinois law, with good behavior, Van Dyke had to just do a good job of behaving himself, and that cut his sentence down to about 50%.
WGN legal analyst Paul Lisnick describing the calculation and how Jason Van Dyke served so little time. Body cam and dash cam videos from Chicago police capturing Van Dyke firing 16 shots into Laquan McDonald in 2014, killing the Chicago teenager. The delayed video release a year later igniting outrage and emotional protests across the city. The 2018 murder trial leading to a second-degree murder conviction and 16 counts of aggravated battery. But in a controversial sentencing phase, Cook County Judge Vincent Gaughan handing down just over a 6-year sentence to the outrage of many.
Judge Gaughan took advantage of the perfectly legal power he had to essentially run whatever sentence he was going to assign with the battery charges tied to the second murder charges.
During his abbreviated stay behind bars, Van Dyke for a time moved into a federal detention center in Connecticut, and according to records from the Illinois Prisoner Review Board, when Van Dyke's release was approved in September of last year, we know that he was being held at the minimum security Taylorville Correctional Center near Springfield. He'll be under supervised release for 3 years.
That was Julian Cruz reporting. While the state line isn't dealing with snow like much of Illinois, as there's definitely a chill in the air.
Candace lets us know if that cold sticks around through the weekend. Her forecast is next.
Now, your first warned weather forecast from Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
Well, our winds have been something for us here this afternoon, still coming in from the north and northeast, really keeping that chill in the air, still sustained at about 10 to 20 miles per hour, kept our wind chills in the low single digits, even a couple of numbers here dropping back below zero. 17 our current temperature here in Rockford, makes it feel more like 4 though. 14 in Freeport, you're down to 18 in Dixon, 16 currently in Rochelle. We'll see these numbers drop off into the low single digits here tonight as our skies stay mostly clear. 16 for our weather watcher Ken in Belvedere, 26 this last hour. Actually, temperatures should be down a little bit there for Mike north of Forreston. He has a wind chill of about 1 here this afternoon. 16, I believe that temperature was. Bob on the southeast end of Rockford checking in with 14. No rain, no snow today, and our skies expected to stay quiet here as we go through the night. We made it up to 19 degrees. That's it. Our average high, we should be at 30, so we are well below that this afternoon. And the trend for those cooler numbers, something that'll stick with us for at least the next couple of days. But notice what happens as we get into next week. A brief pattern change allows those numbers to go up, and we'll actually be warming through the 30s and a little bit above average as we get into next week. We hang on to high pressure moving in from the northwest. This is a massive storm system, stretches all the way from the southern plains extending up into the northeast, brought some icy conditions for parts of Oklahoma, Texas late last night, early this morning, southern Illinois, now Kentucky, Tennessee, dealing with some of that through southern Indiana and out through Ohio. We look to the northwest, we've got our next storm system. This is going to be a quick moving clipper system. Ahead of it, winds will briefly shift around to the west, which will bring our temperatures up near 20 or at least in the low 20s for tomorrow afternoon, but then we'll see the cloud cover increase. So as we go through the night tonight, I think we'll keep it a partly cloudy sky. By tomorrow morning, you may start to notice a little bit more cloud cover moving in on the horizon. Temperatures up around that 20-degree mark, but we build in the cloud cover as we go into tomorrow afternoon. As we get through the afternoon, notice a couple of light snow showers, a few flurries. Those will work in. Not going to amount to much, but as you drive home tomorrow, you might notice some of those very light snow showers kind of on and off as we go throughout the afternoon. Temperatures will then cool behind that as a brief area of high pressure builds in Friday night into Saturday. Saturday, southerly winds pick up, but because there's quite a bit of snow down to the south, we'll kind of be transporting a little bit of cooler air for Saturday afternoon. So we stay in the low 20s, but temperatures on Sunday, should make it up close to 30 degrees. Now let's talk wind chills. It is breezy tonight. Those winds again by tomorrow morning. Those numbers will dip down in some places 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees below zero. So it is going to be a cold start tomorrow. We do see a little bit of a rebound though once we get into tomorrow afternoon. A live look with a Mercy House Skytrack camera now out over Freeport at the Park Hills Golf Course. Beautiful sunset, but a chilly one at that. Temperature tonight down around 2. Tomorrow we make it up to 20, 22 for Saturday afternoon, 30 on Sunday, little dip on Monday, and then guys, we're back into the 30s at least briefly into next week.
Hopefully not too briefly. We've got a streak going there at the end of the 7-day. 3 days in a row of 30s. Thanks, Candace.
Scott's in next to talk sports.
The Blackhawks' soiled reputation got even more sullied last night with some comments the team's owner made during a town hall meeting. Scott has a lot to say about this topic.
Now sports with sports director Scott Leber.
Just when we thought the Blackhawks organization had turned a corner and realized the sins of their past and were committed to doing better, team owner and chairman Rocky Wirtz seemingly blew the whole thing up again last night. The sins of the past are the sexual assault allegations made by former Ice Hog and Blackhawks player Kyle Beach against Blackhawks former video coach Brad Aldrich. That was years ago. Well, the Blackhawks fired GM Stan Bowman and others after that was revealed last fall. Wirtz and the Blackhawks claimed things would be different going forward. Then last night, top management, including Wirtz, held a town hall meeting with reporters, fans, and VIPs. When Wirtz was asked about the Kyle Beach topic and what steps the organization was taking to keep a similar incident from happening again, Wirtz not only didn't want to go there, he got downright angry.
And we're not going to talk about 2010. I know, and I'm not either. And we're not going to talk about what happened. We're moving forward. That's none of your business. What we're going to do today is our business. We're not going to talk about Kyle Beach. We're not going to talk about anything that happened. Now we're moving on.
Couple things here. One, if you're going to host a town hall, you have to be prepared to field any and every question, and you have to know the Kyle Beach topic is going to come up. You need to be prepared to answer that. Two, many Blackhawks fans have been completely turned off by the organization because of what happened to Kyle Beach. So it's a valid topic to bring up. Three, telling reporters and especially fans that matters like this aren't any of their business is completely wrong. The fans are always the most important component of any pro sports franchise, because without the fans, those franchises don't exist. What Wirtz should have said is something like, we screwed up in the past. We are determined not to let that happen ever again. We have people in place now whom players can come to if they feel like they've been sexually or physically abused by coaches or other staff members. And those people will report directly to me. And if there are any future allegations of abuse, we will immediately take action and investigate, and we will not tolerate abuse in any form, no matter whom the guilty party is. Again, that's what he should have said. The Blackhawks, or at least several people who are in the organization, were guilty of covering up what allegedly happened to Kyle Beach. They were guilty of giving Brad Aldrich positive recommendations for future jobs rather than red flagging him. And now, by Rocky Wirtz refusing to answer those questions last night, feels like this organization is still about covering up information. It's not a good look. The fans should be angry, and I won't be surprised if Rocky Wirtz soon steps down as the Blackhawks chairman after what happened last night. That seems to be the next necessary step in cleansing the organization. Wirtz did issue an apology to the Blackhawks late last night. They released a statement where Wirtz said, quote, he was crossing the line with some of his answers, but the damage is done. That's my take. We'll be right back.
Candace will have a final look at the weather in just a moment.
First, here's what's on News Nation's agenda.
Two big exclusive stories tonight. We expose how your tax dollars are being used to fly illegal immigrants to the city of their choice. Plus, why the government is choosing Chinese mask makers over American-made. That's On Balance. Here's Dan.
Thanks, Leland. Tonight on Dan Abrams Live on News Nation. Not even 2 weeks into his tenure at Georgetown Law School, a prominent scholar now on leave after tweeting concerns about President Biden's Supreme Court promise to pick a black woman. Cancel culture, alive and well. That's tonight on Dan Abrams Live.
That is all coming up on the fastest growing cable news network in America. News Nation is available on any of these channels you see here. You can also head to newsnation.com.
Got a little bit of clearing taking place for us this evening. The first warning interactive radar stays quiet tonight, but could show a couple of flurries flying through the sky toward tomorrow afternoon. Down to 2, wind chills back below 0, so another cold one. We bump the number up a little bit for tomorrow, low 20s for Friday afternoon. Cloud cover increases, 22 on Saturday, near 30 on Sunday, mid 30s possible next week.
All right, thanks, Candace.
And thank you for spending some of your time with us. Stay safe.